Laulima Okabawana exploration of the Johnston Atoll region of the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument. And this is Chris Mott from the Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History. I'm here with my co-lead, Chris Kelly from the University of Hawaii, who might not be in the position to talk right now.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, very good.
That's all right.
And we're about...
Heather's not really picking a direction, so...
Let's see. Maybe
Tomato,
about
I will
50
rotate
meters
to
away
6-0.
from the bottom.
I'll
and,
go starboard.
We're descending
and
very
then
quickly, and we'll be hitting
can
bottom
rotate
soon.
port
For those who are
6-0.
listening...
Sound good? All right, let's start to rotate. Meet at 6-0.
We are exploring today a new seamount that has no name. It's never been explored, and in fact was just mapped this morning. And there are lots of very tired people who came to bring you this important scientific discovery. So we're going to be looking a lot at the surface. So we'll be starting today at 2,325 meters, moving upslope to 2,191 meters. We'll be beginning at a saddle area along this ridge, or rather, excuse me, starting from a saddle area on the seamount, and then running up the ridge upslope until we get to the crest. For those of you who are tuning in for our daily oxygen report, oxygen cuts out at around 425 meters, if I'm reading this correctly. And there's, I think, no, still haven't quite seen the bottom yet, but we'll be bringing you updates as we approach nearer to the bottom.
Let's keep an eye on tether as we come down. It looks a little funny. But besides that, if you're ready to start coming down, I'm ready too. Yeah, take a peek at it real quick before we go. Starting to sink a little bit. Great. I'll come out of auto depth and start coming down.
So yesterday we saw, if you were lucky enough to be watching us,
if that tether gets too close,
especially towards the latter end of the dive, we saw an incredible field of glass sponges, sort of looked like an alien landscape. Many of them as large as a small chair from your living room. Some of them with very unearthly structures. They were all facing into the current. Very amazing animals. And today's dive, we hope that we'll see something comparably fascinating. Many different kinds of invertebrates live in the deep sea, and they have some of the most unique adaptations to this environment. So we'll hopefully see a lot of weird things, weird fishes, weird sea stars, weird sponges, all that sort of thing. I see that we have the bottom in sight, so we'll be... what we typically do in situations like this is we sort of descend, and then the pilots have to adjust the ROV from descent to surveying. So there will be a slight delay. We'll probably have a chance to look at some of the adjoining faunas next to the ROV from the camera. And then after that brief period, we'll be on our way, and we'll begin our movement upslope.
Yeah, it's...
Okay, I'm here. I'm going to be challenged to be multitasking this morning. That's why I just needed to get my computer set up and C-scribe, but now I'm all ready to go.
Zigzag. It's on.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
Many of you will undoubtedly hear Chris occasionally snoring during today's dive because he was up all night helping map this brand new seamount.
No.
Oh no! I'm going to give you all these kudos. It's going to be like a
how
big
about
box of
Kevin and
granola
Nia
bars.
and actually going over 3 seamounts, which looked like it was the best target, and had a plan. And then I went to bed for a couple hours and got up at 4, and we regrouped, and everybody came in. Chris Ritter came in, the ROV acting lead right now, and then we talked about the actual dive site and figured that out. So it's really Kevin and Mashcore that really put in a lot of effort with Charlie as well. With Charlie as well, late in the hours, all night last night, as they have every night.
Other way, yeah.
So
that's right, and that's a side of the Okeanos Explorer crew that is often not immediately evident from our broadcast.
All right, so it's cheating
and
to
that's
your
that
starboard.
we
So
have
rotate
a
backport.
dutiful crew of people who
it'll
map
stay there.
the seafloor during the night shift,
Just
composed of
stay off
the individuals that Chris just mentioned, and they stay up all night, essentially monitoring the devices and the equipment that give us the detail that we need in order to
actually go to 4-5.
descend to the bottom
Just
and
set at 4-5.
move around without any kind of harm.
yeah, so we haven't really seen a complete compilation of the data from last night. We saw the one swath that they had mapped on our route over, but I'm counting right now possibly part or all of 8 seamounts that have never been mapped before have been mapped by this group, Mashcore's group, at night.
I think that's good.
In the monument, and of
right.
those, at least 6 of those are almost complete or completely mapped. So it's been a very, very productive mapping cruise, even though our primary function here is the ROV dives. The mapping always supports, and so we've got a lot going on here, and I just saw all of the seamounts from Nea. She gave me copies of them. I put in ArcGIS, and they're just beautiful. It's beautiful data.
Yeah, I expect that you'll be acquiring bottoms soon. I'm going to switch rotation center to A-frame.
2 enter is tight.
Sediment bottom. I think Bruce Mundy got his wish.
You so happy?
And so Scott France also was quite interested in seeing something a little different.
Sail 215.
Just let it sink for a second.
So did we?
Hoping that the channel here wouldn't be sedimented, or at least not thickly sedimented, and that might be an indication that the currents moving through this compressed region would be scouring the bottom. So I think I see there's ripples, so the current is strong enough to create ripples, but not strong enough to wash away all sediment.
All right, thank you. And that was the voice of Scott France from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
They're coming now.
Everybody who's been tuning in for the last few years should be very familiar with his voice. He's been an absolute tremendous authority and resource for the Okeanos cruises, both in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. And he knows a lot about a lot. That's all I can say.
So the title of the expedition is La Lima o Kamawana, which essentially means partnership in the ocean, or partnership for the ocean. And one of the aspects of that, which is reflected in our science team, we have a team of experts which we are able to communicate with instantaneously on shore. These include experts in corals of many different types. We have geologists, ichthyologists, people who study fishes, and these people are able to communicate with us instantaneously via telepresence. So that, in cooperation with our pilots and with our mapping crew and with the many individuals who operate the ship, the Okeanos Explorer, that is cooperation is essential to the endeavors that we're engaging in here, exploring this never before explored region.
Yeah, so to update those of you who aren't on the call this morning, the dive plan is actually to drop down into a little bit of a saddle. It almost looks like a crater or a channel on the very top of the seamount, and that's what you're seeing. We were expecting to see soft bottom based on the backscatter, and this is a nice, good landing site, and also to accommodate, Bruce Mundy, who thinks he's going to see more fish in the sediment area. He didn't get any yesterday.
How's
But
tether look?
then we are going to move over toward a ridge-like summit
Down a little bit,
topography feature,
not if it
and we're going to go up the slope
the
of
tether
this.
looks
You'll
like
see
it
a
might come too
conversion
high
or
up on the
transformation from sediment to rock. We'll get up a little into a little saddle area, get on top of the crest, and then we'll run the crest up. And it's an upslope,
when you're
so
happy
even
with
though we're
that.
on the crest of kind of a ridge-like feature, but not really, we'll continue up along it. So it'll be upslope most of the day on rocky habitat, but dropping in the sediment gives us a look at the saddle area. And just for your information, those of you watching, we are facing about 90 degrees orientation to the channel itself, so those bed forms indicate that the water is moving through this channel that we've dropped into from north to south. Got little cobbles. I wouldn't call these necessarily manganese nodules, which usually form beds on sedimented abyssal seafloors.
It's almost kind of a talus.
Yeah.
That maybe you
Very
want to.
scattered if they are
We should get a
nodules, but I
move
don't
in.
think so. They're different
Or you
sizes.
should scoot back a
Yeah, I
little
think
bit.
they're just manganese coated
I think you're pretty far out there in
Pebbles.
front of me.
pebbles.
Cobbles.
we were
and
just
things.
doing tether
Thank you.
maintenance
Oh, okay,
the
gotcha.
last 10 minutes pretty much.
Okay,
It took us a while to come down.
all right. I'm going to come down a bit.
Yeah, just keep an eye on
So you may have to
I see.
complete a lot of my
Just a little bit.
sentences this
Yeah, it's
morning,
kind of
Chris.
blowing up
That's
slope
fine.
here.
Yeah, we actually
I'm
turned
always happy
east
to.
Yeah,
I'm always
And then
happy to
turn
speak for
back.
other people, Chris.
yeah.
try
I'll
to
just,
get
actually, I can
to
just
the
pretend to be.
Okay.
People are probably confusing our names at this point. This is Chris Kelly
It's always fun when the tether's blowing up in front of you.
from the
That looks all right.
Hawaiian Undersea Research Laboratory.
Yeah,
Say it again? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Looks all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
trying to see what our really
that's it.
bad
Thank you.
Oh,
joke
get your swing
assortment
arms
looks
out.
like
Yeah,
for
we can
today.
swing
I
arms.
actually
And,
listed some on my
So you get a
iPad.
swap here. Yeah, we
I'll
should
start you out if you don't have
get
one.
moving. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot to see.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
on, Chris.
It is.
Beware.
Sandy.
So this one comes from a member of our onshore community sent via Twitter. What do you call a sea cucumber that is just eviscerated?
Oh boy.
You mean it like expelled his innards?
That's right. So sea cucumbers can expel their innards as a defensive mechanism.
So again, what do you call a sea cucumber that just eviscerated?
That has just thrown its guts out at you.
I don't know. What?
You call it a holothurian.
Oh,
Not a headache,
Science
man.
joke, I guess.
You're looking at
Do you
generally
know
like a
who sent that in? That was quite good.
050
That was
060.
Megan McCullen.
Yeah, I think,
it was sent to me via
someone
Twitter,
had
but
that
she is
receipt.
part of
Yeah,
our
060 is what I got.
onshore
Okay.
I'll
science
select
team.
0.24, is that right?
And I
Okay.
believe she
That
gave us
direction
some
looks
assistance
pretty good.
with
Yeah.
some bryozoans yesterday.
Oh,
Chris,
Megan.
wouldn't that be a holothurian?
Why don't you want to kind of back up a bit until we get the ship moving?
Yeah, sure.
Just because when
Your
we're
turn.
stretched out, it makes that tether.
Megan, do you really want to enter this world with
serious
Chris and
about
I and this quality of humor? I don't know, but that was very good from our perspective. Thank you, Megan, for doing that.
That's looking better.
So taking a look, we've got Asako Matsumoto from the Chiba Institute in
Okay.
Japan, Jessica
I'll,
Robinson,
keep your lights
Bruce
out.
Mundy from the NOAA Inoue Regional Center on Ford Island in Hawaii. We've got some OER folks, Emily Crum. We also got URI, University of Rhode Island, ISC. It's
Yeah,
the
whatever. That'll remind me
crying
too.
out loud. I'm going to have a
What's
bad
that?
morning.
The-
Forgot center, the inner space center. Thank you. Jeez.
I'm just going to exercise this upper swing arms a bit, Sean.
Yeah, no, go for it.
We also have Dr. John Smith from the
if you wanna get a
Oceanography
move in,
Department
I
at
think we
School of
do 50
Ocean and
meters.
Earth Science Technology at University of
No problem.
Hawaii. Megan, who just gave that
Anything from 40 to
awful
60 I
joke.
think is fine.
Of
But
course,
we got
Nicola
20.2.
Rodriguez, who's next to me from the University of Hilo, Scott France, University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and
Video,
Tim
you
Schenk
wanna come in on?
from
So
Woods
cover
Oceanographic
ground over this.
Institution.
Yeah, it's
We'll
pretty
get more as the
sandy
day
and
goes
great.
on, typically, so
Flat here.
thank you all for joining. And we got a drunken shrimp.
All right, I'll just call in a big move.
And
Yeah,
what
watch
was-
leads. Hey, we're on bottom, and we're ready to start.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, we're going to get a view of this shrimp to start off with, mostly because it's the only game in town at the moment.
Yeah, we're putting a ship move in now. We're going to try to move past this sandy bottom pretty quick.
It's fine, you know, we'll be on fish watch, I think.
Copy that.
Fish watch.
Fish watch.
You gave us the name of this shrimp
All right, I'll still get us
yesterday, I
going.
think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
definitely.
Canthophyra.
Bridge now.
Just be aware, Sean, I'm looking at 050.
That was
for the moment.
confirmed. I'm not positive by who
Once I'm done with this, I'll
yesterday.
turn my
Hey, we'd
head.
like to get a ship move if you're ready.
Copy that.
Send it.
50 meters, bearing 050, speed 0.2.
Ship move range 50 meters at a bearing of 050 degrees and decimal 2 knots.
Snappy.
Good copy.
So they'd have to look back in the event log, but they suggested even a Canthophyra eczema, which is a species that's known to occur here in the Central
Okay,
Pacific.
based on the multi-beam, this move should get us to the base of the
So
slope.
I think
Thank you,
we're good.
Bridge.
When you come wide.
So
Let us proceed.
All right, Sean.
All right, happy flights. Look good.
Bring my
good.
head over to 060.
Head full.
I think we're on 50.
Oh, you put in 050.
I asked for
you find
50.
sea
Gotcha.
stars on
Okay, well, we'll do
sediment,
that
don't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, is that a fish?
Seeing no terrain in any direction.
Something is in the water column
Upper
there.
right-hand
50.
corner, some kind of white
That's
sinusoidal
that's to the
body.
waypoint.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
watch leads. This is
feeling.
as close as I can get right now, but we'll see.
It is a fish. All right, Bruce, you're on. How about that for delivering right out of the gate?
Okay, thank you for taking that request. You guys are really good. So we're a little distant. This is a halosaur. We can't say what genus yet. We need to look at the top of the head to see if it's scaled or not. But my suspicion is that it's an Aldrovandia species. And this one looks like it's pale
The track is only about
instead of
500
dark
meters.
brown or
Yep.
black.
So we've got
Which,
time.
and it has
Take
a
our
long
time,
snout.
get a lot of
I'm
good looks at
trying to
everything we
remember,
see.
Ken Sulak had said that these might be
So we're done with this,
Aldrovandia
Sean. Maybe we,
longirostrus, I believe.
Come back and we can kind of look
The
to the
pale
sides.
white ones. It's a good
zigzagging.
distance away, so I
Yeah.
know that the ROV pilots are going to have trouble acquiring a good image. If it's this Aldrovandia longirostrus, that would be a new species record for the Johnston Atoll area. The taxonomy is a little uncertain because there have only been collections of these around the Hawaiian Islands and not down in Johnston Atoll or other Central Pacific islands. And it's
Copilot,
difficult
when
to
you have a
identify
minute,
the
can you
species
go
without
ahead
a specimen
and
in
set
hand.
DC bus
The
return
reason I
ground
was
fault
hopeful
monitor standby
for
to
seeing
when
fish
it's wide,
on
it's
this
mostly
at the beginning of this dive and the soft
Indeed, I will
sediment
turn
is
off
that this fish and a lot of
the
others feed on
ground fault monitor
crustaceans
standby.
and worms,
This will turn
polychaete
on
worms
the device.
that live
On the
in the
DC bus
sediment
return.
and
Yes.
emerge
Thank you, Copilot.
at various times
We will
to
record
forage
values.
for food. And so the food supply for fish like this
Once it
would be more
updates.
abundant in the lower gradient soft sediment habitats than it would be on the high gradient, very rocky habitats that we've been
Yeah,
exploring in the last few days. So a halosaur. Thank you very much for the pilot for trying
65,000
that. I hope we'll see more.
That's
That's a little high.
You guys are taking max of it only measures to 50.
Sure, we'll deliver that right up.
A bamboo coral actively feeding. Okay, we'll look for it.
Well, first, here's sand. Is this a... What's this... Is it a white... Is it a cucumber, or is it... There's a white body ahead of us.
1300, that's a good value.
Yeah, copy that. Watch leads.
Is it a thing, or is it just...
Are you writing it down, Dave, or do you want me to over here?
Why don't you? That's more appropriate there.
All right.
I'm writing it down as it affects CCD data over here.
Oh.
But
I
not,
think it's your
not engineering.
imagination diving away with
I
you.
think it might just be. Oh, wait. Video quick zoom.
Nobody knows that song anymore. I guess that
Oh.
ages. Oh, no, you're right. Oh, I can't
I
believe
knew
it. You are right.
I knew my Okeanos sense was tingling.
Wow, look at this guy.
Wow, look how well disguised it is, too.
Yeah.
So this is a sea cucumber. You'll hear me repeat this little mantra over and over again, but these are kind of the earthworms of the sea, but they're echinoderms related to sea stars and sea urchins. They essentially devour sediment and eat all of the organic goo that's present in it. They devour that, they ingest that goo, and then the sediment just is sort of deposited out as
request was
castings.
for lasers off.
Kind
Lasers
of
off.
like the way that earthworms do. This sounds kind of gross to most people, but it's actually quite an important ecological function because they can process the microbial flora in the sand or sediment, and they can also, and this also frees up the sediment for other animals that burrow through it. So sea cucumbers actually have quite an important role in the carbon cycling and the sort of geochemical cycles.
Caught that one. Was that Chris Ma?
In habitats like this.
And
This one seems to be well disguised. I'm not sure if that's the skin or genuinely the color of the skin, or if it's simply covered by sediment as kind of a defense. Sometimes sea cucumbers are able to use the tube feet that they have on the surface to adhere sediment and other particles to their body.
So there's only one type of
Exactly the question I was just raised with you, Chris.
Oh, what? Sorry?
I say that was exactly the question I was just going to raise with you, whether this was one of the sea cucumbers that might be using its podia to disguise itself. It does kind of look like chicken breast kind of rolled around.
All right, ship is well underway, and you should be swinging.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's hard to say without sort of
pretty far out there and kind of pulling the tether here when you're turning around.
The animal. I'm sorry, Chris.
The only one that I'm familiar with that, and decorator holothurians, if you will, is Mesotheria, but I don't know if that's it or not. And that's in the Synallactidae, so it's sort of a weird Synallactid.
It's hard to say. I mean, there's no characteristics to see here.
I know you can't see the feet or anything.
Yeah. But we're done.
Right,
so whenever video is ready.
How long ago did you put in the move, Nav?
Yeah, video. Come on when you're ready.
A move was 6 minutes ago. The ship has moved.
I like that.
Okay.
Chicken
30
breast
meters already. We have 20 left. And you should be
Well, some
moving.
of them actually
So
have
5 or
kind
6 minute
a
delay
cat-like behavior where they
that.
kind of roll back and forth. It's really strange, but I've seen them do it on videos. It does literally seem like they're battering themselves up.
Yeah, I guess that would beg the question in this particular habitat, what would it be camouflaging itself from? So perhaps that's not an intentional coating of sediments, but just because of the amount of mucus that's produced, perhaps if that is actually sediment on the surface and not the color of the tissue.
Yeah, I mean, for all I know, it protects itself against something like those halosaurs. I don't know if there are very many visual predators at this depth, but a curious defense mechanism, to be sure, if that's indeed what it is.
Pilot, could we get the lasers on, please?
Lasers back on.
Copy that. This is on.
Great, thank you.
So I'll try to be good about turning those off when we have a nice beauty shot.
So we always tell everybody, or remind everybody, that the 2 red dots you're seeing in the center of the screen are 10 centimeters apart. And that's how we measure things down here and get an idea of their sizes.
What is that white? Is that a rock?
What?
Oh,
About
sorry. There's a white
right.
circle that we passed.
Yeah, copy.
And
There's some
just
rocks up
wanted to
there
see
ahead
real
on
quickly
Sirius.
because it's not the color of the rocks,
Okay.
and it's round.
But I am seeing rocks in the background there.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, so just down. Do you see it right?
Yeah, I see it.
This is
Yeah. Sharp eyes, Chris. Oh, look at that.
coming back.
Now all we have to figure out is what phylum it belongs in.
Huh.
Is this one of these holothurians that's buried or something?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-part symmetry.
There are certainly sea cucumbers that do bury themselves in sediment, so that is a possibility.
Nah,
I don't
Bridge,
know. It has
complete.
6
Thank you,
arms,
Bridge.
and it looks like its base is actually above the sediment. I mean, it could be an egg, a discarded egg case, or weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's alive anymore.
Looks like it has a prominent opening at one side.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I don't think it's alive anymore in any case. So
Might
we
have
may
enough
discover
tether to get
what
up to those rocks
hatched
pretty soon.
from this,
Just a couple minutes.
if anything.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you. We can move on.
All right, video when you're ready. Come
Appreciate
on.
it.
Undetermined. There we go. We have an undetermined category.
Gelatinous.
Whatever. That was a weird one. Sharp eyes, Chris. Almost looks like a weird anemone the way it kind of opened up.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me think it's alive, it was closed when we first saw it, and then it looks like it opened up its arms or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff that I'm sure we'll discover, and we'll just never see it again.
So overall, this is not a very tall,
So,
prominent
pilot,
feature.
before
Is
we
it?
get too far up the wall here, if there's any decent rocks, this might be a chance to pick something up.
Yeah, copy that. If any stand out, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So yeah, about 100-meter feature, 150 meters.
Okay. So I'm looking at 060, and I'm getting some pretty nice returns on sonar now.
Copy.
Okay.
I think we just have a couple minutes left to swing, but sounds like I'll look for a rock here potentially. So
There's something small above the bottom just going to the right of the laser.
I saw something float by
Oh,
just
did
a
you?
moment ago. Yeah.
Oh, is it really small?
Could be a little shrimp or mysis.
Yeah. That's okay. We can move on, I think.
Copy that.
Yeah. Especially since we'll be hitting some rocks soon.
Like right now. Look at that juicy monster over to the right. Maybe a little big.
Yeah, we'll have to pass on that
Is
one.
there
Right.
something? That's a shadow.
we're getting better at that.
There's possibly one in the background upper left, pilot, above the lasers a ways. I wonder, we're not there yet. It may get to be enormous when we get there, but it has girth and it looks loose.
There's a sponge on the big boulder to the right.
I didn't even see that. Where?
Oh, it's off screen
Oh,
now.
it's off screen.
Yeah.
Where are the lasers? That pilot, is this one coming up the center? Is that too big, or would that actually work?
Coming up, so
Yeah,
further
it's
past lasers.
It's about 10 o'clock now. I mean, it's big, but is it too big is the question.
Let's see. So that looks pretty big.
Okay, how about the one to the left going off screen almost right now? Again, I'm just looking for something with a little bit of 3D-ism.
Yeah, copy that.
How much left in the move, Nav?
We're done
Where's the
moving.
fish?
Well, we have
How
it
much
left.
swing do we have
Oh.
left?
So no, maybe we could look for the fish. Oh, there he is. He's above that
probably
rock.
5 meters if that.
Okay.
Video
Yeah.
zoom on fish.
Oh, it's a different one, Bruce. Got a different fish.
That 50 move may have been a little
Yeah,
aggressive.
so this is a fish in a different family than we saw. The other fish is
I'm only gonna
distant
swing a
relative
few more
to the
meters,
true
it's fine.
eels. This fish is a grenadier. They're also called rat tails in the family Macruridae. Very difficult to identify to genus or species. This one has kind of a bulging stomach that's a little bit different than others that we've seen. They indicate that there's good food here for these little fish. It's in the family Macruridae. So the grenadier rat tail, and unfortunately from this distance we can't tell what it is. I need to make a correction on what I said about that halosaur, too. I threw out the name Longerostris. Actually, the name should have been rostrata for potential species identification. Rostrata refers to the snout. That one had a relatively long snout. This one could be a small Coryphonoides. Coryphonoides are active predators and scavengers. This one's kind of drifting slowly. You see it's got a long whisker on its chin, and it's got fairly long rays on the front of the fins on the belly, the pelvic fins.
Bruce,
the tail's a little long, but there are several species. Chris Kelly, what do you think about the potential genus?
Yeah, are you seeing how high the dorsal fin is on this thing? I'm just curious about that. It's higher. I mean, Coryphonoides can have pretty long dorsals, but it's just another feature. I certainly see what you're talking about.
There are a number of species in Coryphonoides. This would be not one of the large ones that we see, it's not Coryphonoides longiceros or Coryphonoides armatus or equine. It could be a different genus, though. There are a number of genera. It's not the small one that we see frequently at these depths called Kumba. It's something else. So we'll have to try to send images off to some experts, some people working in California, in Virginia, and also Japan and New Zealand, to see if we can get a suggestion about the identification. I don't think we've seen this species before on our dives, at least the ones that I participated in. So it's very interesting. A grenadier in the family Macruridae, the distant relative of the codfishes. And thank you for the videography. That's great.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We can move on.
There's
actually a coral to the left. I don't know
there.
if we're in a position.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
All right, video, come on.
It's been hanging out there, though.
Yeah, that's more the value I expected. That
Coral to
1300
left.
was surprising.
Yeah, it was where the...
Is it back towards the rock? I try not to drift too far away.
There's a lot of other rocks up ahead of us if they're not.
It was right around where we saw the fish, but I think it was in front of that big boulder.
I see one on the right side of the rock.
We're all settled out.
Right outside the screen.
That's
I'm
it.
surprised I'm not seeing a bunch of sea pens in these sediments.
I thought there is one right here.
Yeah.
Scott, stand by. You might have called something already before we got there. It's a little stock thing in front of the bigger boulder in the upper left.
Yeah, I think that's what I was seeing earlier.
No, because I'm delayed, I'm referring to something that was on a rock.
Oh, okay.
12 seconds ago, 14 seconds in the other direction. So that's okay.
I'm not sure it's a pen. It does sort of look arborescent, doesn't it?
I'm pretty sure it's an octocoral of some kind.
Yeah. No, I mean not a sea pen, maybe.
Oh, it is a sea pen.
Oh, it is a sea pen. That's just a shadow.
Ah, okay. Oh, interesting. Ah. Sneaky devil.
I'm not going to be able to do anything more than sea pen.
Yeah, there's not really enough to see.
Yeah, sea pen, Chris, I agree. Maybe Cophobelemnon, Calibelemnon, something like that. These are, they can be pretty tricky to identify from these images if we don't already have a good sense of what we're seeing. But just to provide a bit of information, so we're looking at it. They are indeed octocorals, as Chris Ma has said. They're specialized for living in soft sediments. This is why I said a few minutes ago I was expecting to see some. The base of the colony has an inflated portion that serves to anchor it into the sediments. And some of these sea pens actually create kind of a burrow. And so if you were to reach out to try to collect it, some species, not necessarily this one, but some could completely withdraw. It does have a hard axial skeleton in there. It's completely unbranched. It's just basically one rod. And around that one rod, the full length of what you see in the colony, that is a single polyp, and then we refer to the secondary polyps arising from it. And I heard you yesterday or the day before saying one of the ways that we can distinguish among the different types of sea pens is if those polyps arising directly from the main primary polyps, or if they come out on little leaves or fleshy arms of tissue and rise that way. These ones, the polyps are coming up directly. Thanks for the close-up.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for the information about it. I think we're good, pilot. Another video's good.
And then do you still want to look at that rock?
Yeah, we just
Turn
the
my
one
head towards
behind
you,
the
Sean.
seep
Yeah,
end.
got
It's
it.
got some angles to it. Is there any way you could grab it without disturbing the pen?
Walkabout.
Because it's a nice angle. Well, it might be a little
Jesus.
small.
Say it
Though.
again. Sorry, watch it. Which rock are you referencing?
It might be a little small. I saw an angular one behind the pen, but I think it's on the small side.
Copy that.
And if
The
I
one
can
you-
follow up, that boulder behind the seep pen has a white circle on it, on
copy
the
that.
darker half behind it.
Do you want to see the rock before? I think I'm right on top of it. I can back up. to
Sorry,
the
yeah,
right
no, that's
or
fine.
How
whatever
about?
order you want. It's fine with me.
Well, excuse me, pilot. Whichever one you want to look at, but there's some rocks to the left of that boulder that might be in that sweet size zone of around 20 centimeters or so across.
Turn in my head,
Copy
Sean.
that. Copy that. Compile it.
Maybe the one all the way to the left there. Just
Right to the left.
well, yeah. It's the bigger one. Of course, I'm asking for that one now down straight from the lasers.
Oh, it's on screen.
And to the right of the lasers. Keep going a little bit further.
Yeah, that one right there.
That one right there.
That one we could probably do if it's this.
Yeah, John Smith, are you on the telecom right now? Or Jonathan Tree? Well, let's go ahead and get a look at this. I think this will work.
Yeah, copy that.
Yeah, that's a real good size rock. We kind of try to get girthier rocks that could have basalt inside of them just because all these rocks are crusted with manganese and other minerals, and sometimes that's all there is, just crust on it without any basalt, and it renders the rock useless for geologic aging and geochemical analyses. But if it's a nice girthy rock, there's a chance the core of it has basalt in it. Yeah, that's a nice one, pilot. Why don't we go ahead and grab that one as the first one if you can.
Yeah, copy that. Just get settled. All right, watch these. We're just going to do a quick chair swap.
Great.
20 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. We're going to do a quick swap. They do this to give all of the various ROV team opportunities to work the manipulator and
Looks stable there. Pilot, do we have hydraulics up?
Are you set up?
I think so.
Okay.
yeah. Hello, John. Was that you?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you looking at this rock? Will this suffice?
Yeah, the one with the lasers on it.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Can you grab Mini Zeus?
Yeah, it looks
Sure.
good.
You want me to put up on the big
Okay,
screen?
that's our target.
Sure.
Okay.
It's a reasonable size to put in the box. Looks like it's got some height to it too.
And I don't need help to deploy.
There's also one in the upper right corner of the frame. That one would look good too. It's kind of angular.
That might be a little smaller, John. We were kind of fooled by a bunch of smaller ones that looked.
Do the little nudge test.
Okay.
By the way, while it's free.
Oh,
Good.
well.
While he's getting ready to grab this thing, John, I just wanted to report that we got a look at the smaller second rock that we collected yesterday.
Okay, I'm good.
The first rock
This'll
was
fit
very
board
heavy,
size,
so it's
I'm
got
able
something
to-
inside of it. But the second one
All right.
was amazing
Sure.
in my mind. It clearly was a pillow fragment, and it clearly showed
Follow me.
vesicular basalt
Shimmer
without
down
that
to
much
the
manganese
wings, so I can
crusting
Oh,
on
wing
it.
it. Okay.
Yeah. Makes it much easier.
Oh,
I
that's
agree. I'll get out of the way.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, you could very clearly see all the little holes in what we. Maybe you can tell people what vesicular basalt is. What am I saying there anyway?
That's plenty.
I've got a bunch of
a lot of holes in it. Basically, there's gas, bubbles, frozen in the rock. So it means the magma had more gas in it when it came up, and that's interesting in the underwater realm because you have the pressure of the water usually keeps those from forming. Is more restricted in formation than it's erupting on land. So then that would indicate that it's either a really gassy magma or maybe a shallower eruption of it.
Yeah, what caught my eye, John, is the fact that
You kind of got it in the coral cutters there.
this is on a seamount
RV
that showed no indication of ever been at the surface. There was no flat top or anything as part of it. Okay, we've got this rock. We're going to do a little spin here first. And see if we can see any commensals on it.
Video, can you come in on this?
I just want to let you know we have an incoming squall off of our bow, right? So we might have to be adjusting the heading sometime.
That's correct.
Copy that. Yeah, just keep me posted.
Okay, we'll do.
Thanks.
Clear.
So yeah, it could have been a pulse of different.
Pretty fine sediment coming off of it.
There's something, pilot, excuse me, to the lower right. Something white on the bottom of the rock.
Lower right. Okay, I'm looking at something, or potentially something top center. Is that?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That might not be real. I don't think so.
Since you mentioned that white thing on the rock, did you happen to get the hydrozoan that was on the rock yesterday?
Sorry, Scott, because that was in the rock box. He was gone.
Yeah, that's what I thought might happen. It sounds like you had a late night, but I'll ask anyway. Were you able to look at sclerites of that white thing? We wondered if it was a Paragorgia.
Video, do you have any more zoom?
No, I'm afraid not. I didn't even look at the sponge, but I'm going to tell you about the sponge after the rock is tucked away.
Interesting.
Okay. It looks like this has a lot of those little tree-like things we've been calling forams, arborescent forams, so that'll be really fun to see. Happy picking.
Yep.
We'll save them for you, Scott.
Thank you, video. We're good.
All right.
Yeah, I picked lots of those off on an earlier cruise this year. I was quite diligent.
Hey, Chris, you know it's a good idea to leave the rock on the ship for Scott.
Wrote about prior to our cruise that are only less than a dime in size, and they were quite eager to see some of those.
Beautiful. Thanks very much, pilot. Great grab.
So you can either close it manually or I can just
okay,
bring
so
the wing in and
that's rock one, specimen one. We'll get another rock and a couple, a few biologics too, if we can. But I want to tell you about the sponge. So when the ROV got on deck yesterday, and this is a yellow presumed polyopogon sponge. It had the fibrous attachment to the dead coral, as you recall. And it was one of those sponges that was landing on all of the dead corals very curiously and not on the rocks. So we grabbed the sponge, we got the whole thing up, opened up the ROV box, and the water was blood red, almost amber, and the sponge was sort of a little bit whiter, paler color. We put it in the bucket of seawater, cold seawater, got it in the lab, and it turned the entire bucket of seawater blood red. We were able to remove the sponge. It was now quite white, and we put the sponge in 95% ethanol. It was small enough where we decided to sacrifice a little bit of ethanol and put the whole thing in it. And now the sponge is absolutely black, and the ethanol had turned deep dark purple, and we saved a small sample of the
So
ethanol with the purple color, but I can also tell you from two of us that no matter if you got gloves on or not, you get a little bit of that water on you, and we both felt some stinging from the water, and it was either, we think it's hydroids, but we're not positive. I think he had some hydroids on there, but it's very curious.
Yeah, Nav, I was wondering,
what
you
that collection, but I've never seen a sponge do that before, and that sure is a good indication that we got something brand new.
We hosted out pretty well.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Chris, that's really interesting, and I'll tell you about some corals, but just before I do, the large boulder you're leaving on the left has a little something standing on the top of it.
Say, Pilot, there's a white
there are plexor
body.
It's okay. It was a little stuck of something.
Okay, we can move on, Pilot. Thank you.
There are plexor corals that behave exactly the way you just described, in that they are yellow in appearance when you see them in situ, and upon putting them into ethanol, the pigment that's in the tissue leaches out and turns the ethanol fluid kind of a black, deep purple, and the colony becomes either very dark or black in color. So I wonder if the pigments will be the same kind of thing.
A little bit more of a
So
feature
Scott, I don't know if you remember the yellow plexaurid that we collected a couple of days ago, maybe? And that plexaurid is exactly what you are talking about. It turned completely black in ethanol, and that's what it looks like now, completely black when it was bright yellow when it came up.
Yeah, very interesting. Doesn't surprise me at all, and is certainly something that we've seen. And it does, as you just said, maybe that indicates that sponge is a new species, and what you're doing is you're using the presence of a certain kind of pigment to denote that that sponge is quite different in terms of its physiology from other sponges, and that's one of the ways that we can identify the corals as well. Not as well as the sponges, and in the sponge field, there's a whole field called chenotaxonomy, where they use the presence of pigments and other chemicals.
I see that. You're at 7.5 now, almost 8.0.
Yeah, thank you,
I think
Scott.
Video come in?
One more pass here. 075.
7.5 you're happy with?
Call it worm, I
Copy
think.
that.
Is that right, Chris?
Do you want to wait a little bit, or?
Yeah, we can wait.
Copy.
We're not in a rush today.
Swimming.
Do you think this is a species of swimmer?
Oh, no, I was just...
But it's swimming, right? I mean, it looks like it. I wasn't joking about this.
It's hard to tell, really. But it could be, certainly. Swimma is a genus of polychaete worm, a bristle worm, with that can release little sort of glow-in-the-dark bombs to confuse its prey. But it's hard to tell from this far away. Oh, wow. That's nice. It floats. There was also a branching structure on the rock that was just below us.
All right, we can go to that.
I think it was further. Yeah, we might have passed it. That's okay. We can move on.
So, Pilot.
Yes.
Because we have a short track line today, we can definitely kind of move back and forth, side to side.
All right.
And zigzag up the slope leisurely.
Those of you just joining us, you're watching a live broadcast from the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer.
Video switching in.
We are in the Johnston Atoll Unit of the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument, and we're in a seamount that just got mapped actually a few hours ago, and we had to very quickly pick a dive site on the seamount, but it had never been mapped before, and it most definitely has never been dove on before.
To follow you a bit.
And I don't believe it's ever been dredged for rocks before. So this is real, absolute, true exploration. We're seeing things here for the very first time, and you're seeing it with us. Our cruise, this particular cruise, we named Laulima Oka Moana, and it's really denoting a partnership in the sea, because we have an immense partnership to actually carry out these cruises and these dives between a whole different bunch of organizations, a lot of NOAA line offices, as well as the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration, University of Hawaii, the Smithsonian Institution, all the participating institutions that our participants who are actively participating are from.
Okay. Video, can you come in?
So that's what we're doing to provide you with absolutely unique footage and unique exploration of the deep sea floor. And we are currently at a depth of 2,000, almost 3,300 meters, 2,295 meters down below the sea surface, so well over a mile below the sea surface.
Looks like a worm tube in view, some kind of sediment tube.
Looks like it's empty. All right, come on out with you.
A very textured rock surface is manganese crusting that coats a lot of the rocks at these depths.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's called botryoidal texture.
Yeah, I like that word.
Yeah, it's got a nice roundness to it.
Yeah, and you can clearly see this is volcanic, or at least John Smith and other geologists can.
Here's another swimming polychaete coming up to us.
Okay.
Just let it go.
Yeah, I'm going to let it go.
Thank you very much. So we are coming up on the lee side of this kind of slightly ridge-shaped summit of this seamount, which does not have a name yet. And typically on the, we think it's the lee side. Typically we see more sedimentation, which is quite possible what we're seeing. And then when we get up onto the crest, we see it's a little more current swept and a little bit clearer consolidated rock. And this is where we think we're going to find more corals.
Is that nematocarcinus?
Yep, nematocarcinus, our old buddy.
That's Maxim.
We're good for Science Pilot. This is kind of a regular denizen of the deep.
Okay, come on out.
You can actually spot these things from like that distance, because they're after a while you get a gestalt for them, and they're everywhere.
I think one thing that the deep sea hasn't failed to deliver is a nice array of terrains and handsome landscapes for us to look at while we're searching for animals.
No, just sand.
I'm glad you said that, Chris. I'm often not sure when I tell people about the deep sea. One of the things that comes up a lot is that it's a fairly homogeneous habitat. And what that's really referring to is the fact that the temperature really doesn't change very much regardless of where in the ocean you are. It's all typically below about 4 degrees Celsius. There's not much light, it's high pressure. But at this scale, at the habitat scale and the scale of the organism, in fact, there's a lot of heterogeneity.
Yes. That might have actually been a sea cucumber, but I'm not sure.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's.
I thought it was initially, but we zoomed in and.
Yeah, it might have. It might have been. It's hard to say. There is lots of little patchiness in terms of sort of lighter colored sediment. I suspect that those are where different kinds of burrowing animals have been hard at work feeding on the organic goo that's in the sediment here.
Our average pace needs to be 0.05 knots.
There's a sea cucumber, isn't it? The one right above the lasers right now?
Let's take a zoom in on that round.
Yeah,
it might be that Antipitherian that creates hoops around itself. It looks like a just a little lower when you get a chance. It looked like it was, or was that an illusion?
It's an illusion. Okay, never mind.
I thought I saw something up in the water casting a shadow.
Yeah, I thought I did too.
This was moving.
Oh no, see, there it is.
it moves.
Is this something that's just rolling back and forth, or is it actually
That's
part of
Maxim.
an animal?
It looks like it's a stock, and it's coming out of this hole, and it looks like it's rolling back and forth. And look, it's another one of those funny egg-shaped things, those open... Huh. That's an interesting...
We're going to set down and try to get a better view of that.
Yeah.
Come back in.
Yeah, see, it's coming out of a... Whoopsie.
So, pilot over there, that black hole that's upper left, it's got a little fleshy stuff around it. Could you zoom in on that, please? This is one of these curious beasts that we are trying to figure out whether it's alive or dead.
Do you have any more video? We're in pretty close. This is very small.
Is it...
Well, it looks organic, at least.
I think it's alive.
Yeah, it looks like it has some kind of reticulate root or holdfast. And
That's
then
Maxim.
the top is something.
So, Scott or anybody out there, has anyone seen something like this? Let me check the chat room here.
Yeah, it's curious, isn't it? I'm wondering if it's some kind of mollusk, and that's a very elaborate mantle edge. Sure has a big opening there.
Yeah, it sure does. Okay.
Well, the question, too, is whether it's the same thing that we saw with that kind of weird six-pronged opening.
I think it might have been, because there was sort of a hole on that thing, too, if you remember.
It was an inside hole after the prongs had opened.
That's true.
Whenever you're happy, let's get it with lasers.
Yeah, we can move on.
We're good.
All right, video coming up.
Sirius is not tracking well.
Well, that's true.
No,
it could
not
be
at all.
something that's buried.
That's true. Could
So
be.
it's pretty small.
Can we do a noise test right now? Or
There was one.
Okay, so maybe we can just go ahead and move on.
I can do another one, but
I
I did 5 yesterday, and Fernando did 3.
Okay.
So 8 total and 0 correlation whatsoever.
Yeah, I haven't
really.
noticed any
Okay.
correlation.
All right. Well, why don't you kind of
Those linear structures seem to be around. I bet we'll see another
starboard.
Those things that look like bottle brushes.
Okay.
Probably another shrimp down there. Something on the rock. Coming partial.
Ah.
Xeno, huh?
Yeah.
A little bit more.
There's another nice one on the... Oh, no, this is one... Let's take a look. A closer look.
Could be a dead stump or something, too.
I think this is another one of those 6... Is it a 6? I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, it could be a foram. Some kind of xenophyophorian test. There's also to the... Oh, yeah, okay, so there's another one that's sort of similar to it. So these look like the sediment structures left over or created by single-celled organisms called xenophyophorians or possibly, what's the other one, coccomacians. But basically they're giant amoebas. There's another structure over to the right that is more like a fan. I think if we pull out, there's we saw one coming in. There's a sediment structure
Come on
that
out.
All right, Sean.
that basically just looks like a little
Probably
sheet.
like 20
And those
meters
are
for
the same
070.
types of things.
20
left
meters,
over by these
070
animals,
I.
or these single-celled creatures.
Yeah, there's something right on the left side of this boulder, pilot. Could be a crinoid or something.
Moving toward it now.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
look at that
wait a
big.
minute. No, wait. Oh, boy. Is this one of the Cereanthids? This huge? Okay, pilot. This is a collectible, and this is a really tricky collectible. We found out the other day. It swims. believe it or not.
Really?
Yes.
Looks pretty well attached.
It won't be.
Okay.
So I think, Dan, I think you're over there. Is that right? Dan Coppola, you remember this?
I don't think I saw this one, no.
Oh, this is on, I think, one of the first dives. We tried to grab one of these very curious creatures, and it swam away, and we didn't get him.
I think maybe I saw a clip of it, though.
I've actually been looking for one of these since that day.
But we're moving the ship, Dave, so why don't you come back a little
It doesn't
bit.
make any sense. We think
we'll
Tina Molitsova thinks it's a Sariantid based on oral tentacles, which you can't